Hey everybody, video here for you today, and I've been doing a lot of reviewing and a lot of reading, but let's go back to July 3rd of 2017, about 21 months ago. I made this video, 10,000 subs, a new Egypt Pyramid series, and I think I was at like 9,990 some subs, so I made this video, and I had been looking around on Google Earth, and there were some things that caught my eye, and doing some reading, some things I thought were very strange, and let's just listen to one thing I said in this video.
So I'm just trying to present a clean view of history. That's all I'm doing. Sometimes the subject isn't quite as exciting as people make it out to be, and sometimes the past tells us it's much more interesting than we can ever imagine. So I just take it as it comes and just relay what history tells me. Now, one thing I am going to be doing in the near future is going over the pyramids in Egypt, and not just the Giza pyramids and the famous pyramids. I'm going to be going over all the pyramids because there are some untold stories that need to be told. Now, I think we need to look at all the pyramids in Egypt to really get the total story, and there are some pyramids we know little or nothing about. We're familiar with the pyramids at Giza, Sakhara, Dashur, but there are so many more pyramids that the history is kind of weird and unwritten, and maybe they just don't want the history of some of these places to come out. Maybe.
But in that 10,000 subs video I made in 2017, I think I showed the South Dashur unfinished pyramid, but this is the South Sakhara pyramid, and this is the one they ended up talking about in that video. And this just appeared strange to me. It seemed to be open in the middle, and there seemed to be an entrance down here, and it was perfectly aligned. They say, though, this was an unfinished pyramid, and that caught my eye. And what was below that so-called unfinished pyramid? Well, there was a set of turning tunnels and chambers and huge massive blocks that all led down to a hypogeum. What was in this hypogeum? A 150-ton quartzite block with different little compartments carved into the bottom of it, and huge blocks covering the top of it. This was in an unfinished pyramid. I smelled a rat. So I thought these appeared to be kind of maybe like the Serapeum in a way. Underground, huge, massive sarcophagus, unexplained ruins. That just seemed odd and strange. Seems to be a wall around the whole thing. Would you build a wall around the whole thing if it wasn't finished? And I read about this, no attribution whatsoever. They don't have a clue who this was for, no glyphs or anything, and they were just stumped. They didn't have a clue, but this seemed to be finished and not a pyramid. What's going on here? Well, mystery got a heck of a lot deeper about 5 weeks later. Now, it wasn't too long after I started my pyramid series that I came across the structure at Zawyet El-Aryan, and when I came across this just, my hair stood up, and it's like, what am I looking at? What is the explanation for this, and why have I not heard of it? This is one of the most strangest set of ruins, and then it just got stranger and weirder. Now, out of all the videos I've made, this one might be the one I am most proud of, not just because, well, 173,000 views is good and everything, but it was the follow-up by other channels that I was most happy about, and how this news really got out there. Jimmy, of course, at Bright Insight made a video about this. Matt at Ancient Architects, Vlad made a video about this. And Ben, Luke at Pukaj have talked about this, and I'm going to talk about just a couple of those videos real quick in just a bit, but this just was strange, and I just smelled something very ancient here. This wasn't a pyramid. This was just a huge shaft cut in the earth, and then huge granite blocks coming from Aswan, 8 feet high, making up the bottom of the chamber with that oval tub right here, and all those big granite blocks making up the floor. They are encasing this one with the tub here built in it. And what the heck is that tub? But this seemed to be pretty important to have 8-foot high granite blocks and then a perfectly made lid for whatever was supposed to be in here, and all that was found in here, and who knows how many thousands of years it had been in here, but seems to be just some kind of black goo. What the heck was that? And what the heck was it originally? A lot of these mysteries, the more I read about them, I can come up with a pretty solid answer based on all the evidence and looking at something in the big picture. This mystery, this one makes me... it offends me a little because I can't come up with a good, solid answer. My mind goes all over the place. Some theories sound good at some times and some better at others. And what the heck was going on here? What was the effort put into these? And to call it unfinished, these are unfinished pyramids, that just didn't make any sense. That was goofy. That was silly. Zahi and Mark Lehner and you Egyptologists, we're on to you. But before I talk about that tub a little bit here, just a quick review. Barsanti was here a little over 100 years ago, and he was down at the Layer Pyramid right nearby in Zawyet, El-Aryan, and I will leave a link to a video I did on that place, and that place is mysterious as well. But he was down there looking at that place and didn't even really know about this place. I think this was on a few lists, but it certainly wasn't on his task list for the day. And they came up over a rise, and his guide noticed this, and he noticed the walls and what seemed like a pit and an entrance to that pit, and he ended up spending a few years here. But the pit, and this is his diagram of when it was totally excavated, and I think it took him years. But this is what he encountered. This is what the bottom of the pit looked like. His diagram, it was filled with huge limestone blocks, 3, 4, 5 tons, and it took him such a long time to clear this out. But what he found down here, of course, that tub. Let's just read about that real quick. It says, Figure 8 above appears to be a section looking north with a 30-ton block uppermost. The measurements are upside down due to an error in the drawing, and Barsani thought it would take too long to create a new one. The limestone blocks surrounding the granite, he merely says, enormous blocks of limestone filled the space left between the rock face. At this time of the excavation, though, he had reached the bottom of the pit and the lower landing of the descending corridor. Much of the pit floor was still covered, as was the staircase leading to the lower landing. Indeed, it was nearly a month later, after the uncovering of the 30-ton granite block, that Barsanti came across what Egyptologists call today the Oval Sarcophagus. It was discovered on the 12th of March, 1905. Barsanti himself never thought the oval tank to be a sarcophagus, but rather a libation vessel whose lid served as an offering table. This large oval tank he described as being carved out of one of the large monolithic granite blocks that made up the pavement of the pit. He describes it as well-polished pink granite, and that certain measures had been taken to protect it. It says these measures, if my translation is correct, are described as a layer of lime over the lid of the oval tank, followed by a bed of well-spread clay, which protected it from overlying limestone blocks. These limestone blocks he describes as having been placed regularly on the clay next to each other, so as to wrap the tank in kind of an insulating building. Frustrating, he provides no further information on this structure covering the tank, not even a drawing. The oval lid appears to have been plastered to the tank, and on removal of the lid, he found the tank to be empty. On closer examination, he noticed inside the tank that a 10-centimeter black band lined the side walls. This, he thought, might have been the evaporated deposit of some liquid offering. But here he has some diagrams, and he writes this himself. It has been hypothesized that this tank was an unused sarcophagus, but I cannot admit it. The care which it had been protected proves that it contains something, and the blackish deposit indicates the nature of this content. One would not have taken the precaution of concealing it under a huge mass of blocks if it had been empty then. So that is just a little common sense by the guy who excavated this place. But this oval container and this perfectly made polished pink granite lid that covered it, and then the fact that it was buried is one of the biggest mysteries that I have come across in my 1,000 plus videos. But as I showed in my cover-up video, and I called it a cover-up because here it is today, the shaft and pit at Zawyet El-Aryan, covered in trash in a military zone, the figurative and literal cover-up of history. Ain't that a shame? Now, one thing seemed pretty clear to me. In one of the pyramids, one of the strange structures I was familiar with was the pyramid Djedefre, as it was called, at Abu Rawash. And here is the pit at Zawyet El-Aryan. But I will leave the link for Keith Hamilton's paper below, along with some others. But they say this was carved. They say this was an unfinished pyramid from the Old Kingdom, carved with copper chisels, just sliced open the earth here. Massive shaft coming down here, just like at Abu Rawash and other places. So let's go take a look at those. Now here is the controversial pyramid of Djedefre, as it is called on pyramid lists and officially. Just a massive shaft cut in the earth, a descending shaft coming down to a pit, and it is clear that this is exactly like the pit at Zawyet El-Aryan, except just a bit smaller, but the same kind of dimensions here, perfectly aligned, descending shaft. But this place had been quarried. The Romans were up here. People in the 1800s were carrying blocks away from here. The massive granite blocks were hacked to pieces, and there was fragments of them found here. Reports of a pink granite oval tub also in this place. How were they carving into the earth and producing these? And then what the heck happened to the pyramids on top? And that's the part that doesn't make any sense. But let me just tell you a little bit about the history of the pyramid of Djedefre and talk about one video here. Here is a video I watched recently from Abu Rawash. This comes from Luke, formerly of Pukajay. Ben and Luke make their own videos now. His channel is called Enigmas of the Ancient World, and I will leave this link below. But I thought this was a great look at the ruins at the so-called Djedefre pyramid. But they go over a granite slab here that has obvious signs of ancient machining, and they go down in the pit here. But here they are down in the pit, and this seems to be exactly like the structure at Zawyet El-Aryan, and Yusuf is with them, a familiar face on different channels, and it's good to get his view. This place is controversial. Some people say this is unfinished. Some people say this was a pyramid here and this was destroyed. And again, I disagree with that theory, but then again, I haven't been to Egypt. But common sense is just screaming at me saying these are the way these original structures were. And they were open. At least they didn't have stonework on top of them. Maybe they had some sort of top, but today they're open to the sky, and I think that's the way they were. They call this Djedefre's Starry Night or whatever, Starry Sky, maybe because it was open to the sky, and he just wanted to attach his legacy to this, and he was one of many pharaohs who visit all these ancient sites. And let me be clear, the really, really ancient sites, all kinds of pharaohs have inscriptions, and it's just a guessing game on which pyramid is associated to which. Now here is Djedefre's pyramid up on top of a hill. They say there was a pyramid up here on top of a hill, but 12 courses high, a shaft leading down to a pit. That'll become a familiar sight here. But I wanted to look into the history, and I had seen one video by Carmen Bolter on this place, and that was very intriguing. She brought up the question, you know, it's one thing to build a ramp and bring stones up to build a pyramid. It's another thing to build a pyramid up on top of a hill where you have to bring everything up on top of the hill to begin with. Did they build a structure up here that would have been right to the edge of a hill? This just doesn't seem likely. It seemed this was the original structure. Now, what was going on here 25, 30 years ago? Well, this place, Antoine Giegel goes into it, and I will leave some links below, as I said. But what was the condition of this place? Well, it was covered in trash. Just like the place down at Zawyet El-Aryan, this was in a restricted zone. But now Zahi did a video with National Geographic a while ago, the discovered lost pyramid, and he says this is one of the greatest discoveries by Egyptologists this pyramid of Djedefre, and remember, it goes from the Great Pyramid, and then right after this is all that is left of what the pharaohs were building. That is their theory. And Zawyet says they discovered this, but that is complete bullshit. And sorry for the language, but as I said to my viewers, I just try to be honest, and that is what that is. It's total BS. Archaeologists were here 150 years ago. Maps were made, drawings were made of this place. So archaeologists today knew that this place existed. They put pressure on the Egyptian government. They took the trash out of here to allow researchers to work up here. Do they want you going up here today? Here's the last look at Djedefre's structure. It is attributed to, but there is a trench just built around this 12-course main structure. That's all that was here. Descending shaft, open pit. That will become familiar. These weren't pyramids in my mind at all. Here you see what they say is the boat pit. The reason why there was no boats found in here is because the pit itself is meant to represent a boat, and it is pointed directly north, and the north side of the pyramid represents the night journey to the imperishable stars. Now here is a pyramid a lot of you have never heard about. They say this is an unfinished pyramid. All it is a shaft cut in the ground and then a huge pit down below. They say there was a pyramid here. This is all that is left here today. Not much on Google Earth. Now what was found beneath this Mazghuna unfinished pyramid, and that is Mazghuna is located south of Dashur but north of the Fayum region. Well, descending passageways, huge massive granite blocking stones. It seemed they wanted this place blocked up, and then at the end a huge sliding granite sarcophagus type object, and I will leave a link for this specific video below. Now, on the pyramid list, there are some structures you probably have never heard about. Here is another one. This is just 12 courses high, about a shaft coming down, and it appears to be an open pit. This is the Sela pyramid, located in some obscure area of the Fayum region. There is no temple around it. There is no causeway. This is just a lone structure, exactly in the condition as the so-called unfinished pyramids. Perfectly aligned, the shaft coming out to the north here. Unexplained, unmentioned by Egyptologists. Why? Because they cannot explain it. Now this is a video I made during my pyramid series. Let's go down to Abu Sir, the necropolis between Sakhara and Giza. But here, clearly shown, this is the unfinished pyramid of Djedefre. All these pharaohs died at the exact same time, and their pyramid was left in the exact same condition. That is laughable. That is hilarious, but I appreciate good humor. But here you can see, perfectly aligned, descending shaft, central pit, and what were these structures? But this one, this is right in the middle of the Abu Sir necropolis, and if the Egyptians were around here for 3,000 years, this place appears to have been quarried a little bit. Now let's go down to southern Dashur, and here is another one of those structures up on top of a hill. There was never a complete pyramid here. These structures are all in the same condition. It's a little blurry here, but you can see the trench around the original structure, descending shaft, central pit. These were all the same structures. And here you can see kind of on a 3D view. This is up, this is elevated. This was not discovered by early explorers here because it's up on top of a hill. This is not too far away from the Bent Pyramid down here at Dashur, but totally forgotten. And people who explore Egypt today, just try to get a permit to excavate or explore this place. Good luck. Now, the discovery of this place, some of you might remember this video I made on this place, but let me just read. The 1957 discovery of the pyramid of the 13th dynasty king Amenemhet at South Dashur was one of the most important yet most obscure events in the history of pyramid exploration. Now, they say this pyramid, which is exactly like Djedefre's and the shaft at Zawyet El-Aryan, that they are adamant that that is Old Kingdom, Workings? Well, here is a place exactly the same. They attribute it to a 13th dynasty king. It says, incidents immediately following it prevented any substantiative publication of the monument appearing until a decade after its discovery. The objects found have hitherto escaped publication altogether. This paper aims for the first time to reconstruct the events surrounding the find. It says the Pyramid of Amenemhat and the attribution of these places, they're not even sure who this guy was. Lies upon a small hill 1,150 meters southeast of the Ben Pyramid and approximately a kilometer south-southwest of the Pyramid of Amenemhat III at Dashur. It overlooks Lake Dashur from the west at a distance of 500 meters and the wadi leading to the lake from the south at a similar distance. It says its location seems to have escaped the notice of even such keen spotters of ruins such as Lepsius. However, in 1957, an American scientist and publisher, Charles Arthur Muses, approached the Antiquities Service with a view to undertaking excavations at Dashur, and he went there with a guide, found some stuff, found a shaft leading down to a central pit that was totally covered in sand. He didn't get down to the total bottom of it. The discovery was made known via annual summaries of fieldwork, but Muses' sponsorship of the work was shortly brought to a sudden halt at the end of the season. On the 20th of June, Dr. Muses was detained at a Cairo airport on charges relating to antiquities and currency allegedly found in his possession. The most important charges were overturned at an appeal in June 1958, but Muses seems to have never returned to Egypt and apparently never completed the book. He stated that he was writing on his discovery. Is there a cover-up of history going on? This place was found, stuff was found, a book was going to be written, and then upon this respectable researcher leaving Egypt, he was arrested, detained at a Cairo airport, charged with antiquities, crimes, and currency crimes. Does this stink? Let me count the ways. From the moment I saw that pyramid at South Dashur and what was underneath it, and just the way these all appeared, they all appeared to be the same structure, and some of them don't have causeways or anything else built around. I think these were all certainly original structures. I have talked about a white pyramid, a headless pyramid, and other pyramids where the description is the central part of it seems to be missing and all that is there is a pit. Are these constructions from much earlier history that the Egyptians just gradually built over and built some of their pyramids upon? Well, that seems to be a possibility. And if you look into these unfinished pyramids, one that they always attach to these is the Pyramid of Sekhmet. And I did a video on this. Zakaria Goneim and the golden Alabaster sarcophagus. He discovered this empty, strange sarcophagus. And is that any different than any other sarcophagus found? But this happened, I think, in the 50s. He was ridiculed. He was chastised. His career was ruined. And he was later found floating in the Nile River. Is there a period of history they don't want you to know about in Egypt? Well, I think that's entirely possible. But this is the mystery of the unfinished pyramids. These were never pyramids in my mind. These were original structures. Maybe these mark the time where the worship changed from Ra to Horus, kind of about the journey of the sun through the underworld, and then that changed to ascending in the afterlife in the story of Horus. That's just a possibility. Did these have some sort of function? Is this a lost technology and these were kind of like the little power plants? Well, there seems to be some indication that that is a possibility, but this is a big mystery. Personally, I think these so-called unfinished pyramids, wrongly called that, I don't think they were a destroyed pyramid, but personally, I think they are a lot closer to this than the dynastic Egyptian time period. But when you look at the big picture, it's pretty clear Egyptologists really don't want the story or what's beneath these structures known. Here is what is beneath the structure itself. Dashur, a sliding massive lid to a huge quartzite single block with a couple niches. Passages, granite blocking stones. This is all very confusing. But this video from July of 2017, I thought it might be a good idea to look at all the structures in Egypt because some untold stories might be found. Best decision I ever made. Hope you thought this video was cool, and you all have a very nice day.